It was Thanksgiving morning, 4:47, 19 degrees, and I found survey stakes I never authorized on my own land. The frozen ground crunched under my boots. Barbed wire hummed in the north wind like something alive and angry. I poured coffee from my thermos and watched the steam vanish before it reached my face. The leather gloves were stiff with cold. Each fence post I checked was the same post my grandfather planted in 1947, when this was still wild prairie, and hope was the only currency that mattered. Then I saw them. Neon orange ribbons tied to wooden stakes, marching a straight line across the back 40. Survey markers. Professional grade. I never called a surveyor. 6 hours later, we sat down to Thanksgiving dinner. Becky and her family drove up from Austin. My granddaughter Emma asked if she could say grace. Diane stood up mid-prayer. "I want to live for myself," she said. "Without you, Vernon." Becky's fork clattered against her plate. Emma's eyes went wide. "I've been invisible for 38 years, Diane continued. "I deserve happiness." I looked at her. Just looked. "Then not in my house," I said. "Not on my dime." She blinked, like I'd just spoken a language she'd never heard before. Becky tried to salvage it, said maybe we should all take a breath, think about what we're saying. Diane picked up her purse and walked out, just like that. Turkey still steaming on the table, Emma crying quietly into her napkin. The screen door slammed. Her car started. Gravel crunched under tires. Becky looked at me like I'd set the house on fire. "Dad, what just happened?" "I don't know," I said, and I meant it. We ate in silence. Emma pushed mashed potatoes around her plate. Becky's husband kept checking his phone like it might offer him an escape route. After they left, Becky hugging me too tight at the door, whispering, "Call me if you need anything." I stood in the kitchen and looked at the mess. 2 plates untouched. Diane's wine glass still had lipstick on the rim. I did the dishes, wrapped the leftovers, threw out the turkey carcass. Her overnight bag was already packed. I found it in the closet, tucked behind her winter coats, packed before dinner even started. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the lights off and listened to the house settle. The furnace kicked on. The refrigerator hummed. The wind rattled the windows. All the sounds of a place built to hold 2 people, now holding 1. At first light, I walked the fence line. Same routine I'd kept for 42 years. Thermos of black coffee, leather gloves, wire cutters on my belt in case I found a break. The cold metal of this gate latch burned my palm even through the gloves. Frost covered everything. My breath came out in clouds. I walked north, checked each post, ran my hand along the wire, feeling for tension. When you've done something long enough, your hands know things your eyes miss. Then I found them again. The survey stakes. I counted. 12 of them, evenly spaced, running a property line I'd never drawn. Someone had been on my land, measuring it, planning something. I pulled one stake up. The ribbon had a company name printed on it, Harmon Land Appraisal and Survey, LLC, an address in Oklahoma City. I didn't recognize the name. Back at the house, I called Randy. We'd hunted together for 40 years, served in Vietnam in different units, but came home the same year. He'd worked as county clerk until he retired. If anyone knew about property filings, liens, legal maneuvering, it was Randy. "Vern," he said. His voice had that gravel that comes from too many cigarettes and not enough sleep. "Happy Thanksgiving." "Someone surveyed my land without permission," I said. "Found stakes this morning." Silence on the line. Then, "You file any paperwork recently? Subdivision? Easement?" "Nothing." "Diane?" The question hung there. "She left last night," I said. "Announced at dinner she wants to live without me." More silence. I heard him light a cigarette, exhale. "Vern, when's the last time you updated your will?" The question hit like cold water. 1989, I said, right after Becky was born. Jesus. He took another drag. "You need to talk to someone, a lawyer, someone who knows land law." "I don't need a lawyer. I need to know who's measuring my property." "It's the same thing," Randy said. "Listen to me. If someone's surveying your land without your say-so, they're planning something. And if Diane just walked out on Thanksgiving, you need to ask yourself what she's been planning." My coffee had gone cold. Through the kitchen window, I could see the barn, the cattle shelter, the machine shed, 240 acres my grandfather homesteaded, every fence post, every gate, every building, built by hand, built to last. "I'll make some calls," Randy said. "See what's filed at the county. But Vern, you need legal help. Real help." "I'll think about it." "Don't think. Do." He paused. "I got your 6. Same as Kason." After he hung up, I stood at the sink and looked at the survey stake I'd brought inside. The ribbon was still bright, unfaded, fresh. Someone had planted these recently, maybe last week, maybe while I was in town buying Thanksgiving groceries. Diane's car wasn't in the driveway. She'd said she was staying at Linda's house. Linda Morrison, her book club friend. "To think," she'd said, but her bag had been packed before dinner. I set the steak on the kitchen table, poured fresh coffee. The sun was coming up now, turning the frost silver. My phone rang. Becky. Dad, I'm worried. I'm fine. Are you? I didn't answer. Listen, she said. Mom called me last night. She said, Becky's voice caught. She said you two need to update your estate paperwork. She said it's important, something about tax changes. The words landed slow, like snow. When did she say that? Last week. I thought it was weird timing, but, Dad, is everything okay? Through the window, a crow landed on the fence post, cocked its head, flew off. I'll call you later, I said. The Silver Spur Diner sat on Main Street between the feed store and the bank. I'd been eating breakfast there since before Carol was born. Now she owned the place, poured coffee with the same heavy hand her mother had. I walked in at 7. The bell above the door announced me. Every head turned. The conversation didn't stop exactly. It just got quieter, shifted, became the kind of talk that happens around you instead of with you. I took my usual booth by the window. Carol came over with the coffee pot, filled my cup without asking. She always knew I took it black. Vernon, she said, too gentle, like I was breakable. Morning. You want the usual? Just coffee. She hesitated, refilled the cup even though I hadn't touched it yet. The coffee smelled burnt. They always let the first pot sit too long. At the counter, 2 men in seed caps were whispering. I caught fragments. Heard she left. Thanksgiving. Can you believe it? Poor bastard. Pastor Dutch came in, spotted me, walked over. He had that look, the counselor look, the I'm here to help look. Vernon, I heard about Diane. I'm so sorry. Nothing to be sorry about. If you need to talk, or if you both need, counseling can really help in these situations. I don't need counseling. He sat down anyway, uninvited. Marriage is hard work. Takes 2 people willing to fight for it. Sometimes we forget to communicate. Forget to really see each other. I looked at him. He was young, 40 maybe, second marriage himself, liked to talk about transparency and feelings and emotional labor. Dutch, I said. I appreciate the thought, but this isn't a communication problem. How do you know? Because she packed her bag before she said a word. That stopped him. He opened his mouth, closed it, stood up. Well, if you change your mind, my door's open. After he left, 3 couples got up and moved to different tables, like divorce was contagious. I drank my coffee and watched the street. Across the way, Christmas lights were already up on the courthouse. Too early. It wasn't even December yet. Carol came back, refilled my cup again. You okay, Vernon? Fine. You don't look fine. I'm fine. She set the pot down, leaned in close. People are talking. You know how this town is. If you need anything, I need people to mind their business. She straightened, picked up the pot, walked away with her jaw tight. I left a 10 on the table and got out before anyone else could offer me sympathy I didn't ask for. The ranch felt too big when I got back. I kept expecting to hear her moving around, the sound of cabinet doors, the television, her voice on the phone. Instead, nothing. Just wind and the distant sound of cattle. I needed jumper cables from the equipment shed. The old Chevy's battery was dying, and I had fence work to finish before the ground froze solid. Diane's car was still in the driveway. She'd taken her sedan last night, left the SUV behind. The jumper cables were usually in my truck, but I remembered lending them to her last month. She'd mentioned a friend with a dead battery. I checked the SUV, popped the back hatch, found the cables under a blanket, and found something else. A folder, professional. Bound with a black clip, I opened it. Harmon Land Appraisal and Survey, LLC, the same company from the survey stakes. My hands went cold. The appraisal was 40 pages, detailed. Photographs of every building, every fence line, every acre, soil quality assessments, water rights documentation, comparable sales data from surrounding properties. At the end, evaluation. Estimated market value, $200,000. The date on the cover page, September 17th, September, 3 months ago. 3 months before Thanksgiving. Before she said she wanted to live without me. Before she announced anything. I checked the client name, commissioned by Diane Pruitt, her maiden name. Not Hayes, not the name she'd used for 38 years. I stood there in the driveway, holding the folder, while the wind picked up and the temperature dropped, and somewhere a gate banged against its latch. The sound echoed across the empty fields. The appraisal had cost $2,000. I found the invoice in the back, paid in full, from an account I didn't recognize. She'd hired professionals, paid them, had my land surveyed and valued and photographed. All while I was, fixing the barn roof? Replacing fence posts? Making dinner? I carried the folder inside, set it on the kitchen table next to the survey stake. 2 pieces of evidence, both pointing the same direction. This wasn't about needing space. This wasn't about finding herself or being invisible, or any of the things she'd said at Thanksgiving. This was a plan. I sat down, opened the folder again, read every page. The language was technical, clinical. It described my land the way you describe a commodity. Square footage, revenue potential, development suitability, like it was already for sale, like it was already gone. On page 32, there was a note in the margin, handwritten, Diane's handwriting. Subdivide? Check zoning. I closed the folder. The house was silent, except for the furnace and the wind and the sound of my own breathing. September. She'd done this in September, before she stopped laughing at my jokes, before she started locking the bathroom door, before Thanksgiving. She'd been planning this for 3 months, maybe longer. And I'd been walking fence lines and fixing gates and believing we were fine. Outside, the sun dropped behind the tree line. The temperature would hit single digits tonight. The cattle would need extra feed. The water tanks would need breaking if they froze. I had work to do. But first, I picked up my phone and called Randy back. I found something, I said. What? A land appraisal, dated September, hidden in Diane's car. Silence. Then, Jesus, Vern. She commissioned it under her maiden name. That's premeditation. His voice went flat, professional. Listen to me. You need to call Grace Nguyen tonight. I'm texting you her number right now. Who's Grace Nguyen? A state attorney, specializes in land disputes. She's sharp, Vietnamese. Her father fought with us. She doesn't lose. My phone buzzed. A text with a phone number. Call her, Randy said. First thing tomorrow. Don't wait. Okay. Vern, September means she's been working on this for months. You understand what that means? I looked at the appraisal, at the note in Diane's handwriting. Yeah, I said. I understand. Randy showed up that night without calling first. I heard his truck in the driveway, the diesel engine unmistakable. He climbed out carrying a bottle of Maker's Mark and nothing else. We didn't say anything. He set the bottle on the kitchen table, pulled out a chair, sat down. I got 2 glasses. The good crystal Diane's mother had given us. Seemed right to use them now. He poured. We drank. I made some calls, he said finally. County clerk's office. Nothing's been filed yet. No lines, no transfers, no easements. Yet. He refilled both glasses, but that appraisal, that's step 1. You don't spend $2,000 on a professional survey unless you're planning step 2. What's step 2? Depends. Could be a sale. Could be subdivision. Could be she's positioning herself for a divorce settlement. He paused. Or she's getting ready to claim the land if something happens to you. The whiskey burned, going down. Outside, the wind had picked up. I could hear it whistling through the barn gaps. Your will, Randy said. 1989. Before Texas changed the inheritance laws. You know what that means? Tell me. Spousal right of survivorship, unless you specifically state otherwise. Everything goes to her automatically. The house, the land, all of it. I set my glass down. And if we separate? Community property state. Married 38 years. She'd have claim to half of everything you've built. He leaned forward. Vern, that appraisal puts your land at $1.2 million. You think she doesn't know that? The kitchen felt smaller suddenly, colder. I got your 6, Randy said. Same as Kay-san. But you need more than me. You need someone who knows how to fight this kind of war. He pulled a business card from his wallet, slid it across the table. Grace Nguyen, J.D. Estate Planning and Land Law, Stillwater, Oklahoma. She's good, Randy said. Helped my cousin when his ex tried to take the family farm. Vietnamese American. Her father was an ARVN officer, came over after the fall. She grew up hearing stories about land and what it means to lose it. I picked up the card. The paper was heavy, professional. She does a tea ceremony before big meetings, Randy said. Says it helps her think. Don't let that throw you. She's sharp as obsidian. I don't need... Yeah, you do. He poured another finger of whiskey for himself. Diane's 3 months ahead of you. She's got a plan. She's got documentation. She's probably got a lawyer already. You're behind, Vern. Way behind. The wind rattled the windows. Somewhere a shutter banged loose. Call her tomorrow, Randy said. First thing. We drank in silence after that. Talked about deer season, about Randy's grandson making varsity football, about anything, except Diane and appraisals and the ways a marriage can rot from the inside without you noticing. When he left, he gripped my shoulder at the door. You're not alone in this. After his taillights disappeared down the drive, I sat at the table and looked at Grace Nguyen's card. The whiskey bottle was half empty. The house was quiet. I called the number, got voicemail. A woman's voice, calm and clear. You've reached Grace Nguyen. Please leave a message. This is Vernon Hayes, I said. Randy Mathers gave me your number. I need legal help. It's about my land. I hung up, set the phone down. looked at the appraisal folder, still sitting there. She called back at 7 the next morning. I was already up, already dressed, already halfway through my first coffee. Mr. Hayes, Grace Nguyen, Randy said you might call. He did. Last night. He said it was urgent. Her voice was calm, professional. Can you come to my office today? 2 o'clock? I can. Bring any documentation you have. Property deeds, wills, anything your wife might have signed, anything unusual you've found. I've got an appraisal she had done, without my knowledge. Pause. Bring it. All of it. Okay. Mr. Hayes. Randy says you're a good man, that you served, that your family's held that land for 3 generations. That's right. I don't lose. And she said it matter of fact. Not when it comes to land. See you at 2. She hung up. I finished my coffee. Fed the cattle. Broke ice on the water tanks with a sledgehammer. The physical work felt good, necessary. At 1:30, I drove to Stillwater. The office was in an old house converted to professional space. Small, neat, a sign out front with her name. Inside smelled like jasmine. She met me at the door, mid-40s, black hair pulled back, sharp eyes that saw everything. Mr. Hayes? Vernon. Come in. She led me to a conference room. Set up a tea service on a side table, actual ceremony, heating water, measuring leaves, pouring with careful precision. My father taught me this, she said. Before difficult work, slow down, think clearly. She handed me a cup. We drank. The tea was good, better than the burnt coffee at the Silver Spur. Then she sat down across from me. Show me what you have. I laid out the appraisal, the survey stake with the company ribbon, the text from Becky about updating estate paperwork. Grace read everything, made notes on a yellow legal pad with a fountain pen. Didn't speak for 10 minutes. Finally, she looked up. Your wife filed this appraisal in September. It's December now. That's a 3-month head start. She tapped the folder. This is step 1 of a property claim. The next step is usually filing for legal separation or positioning for a transfer. Can she take the land? With your current will? If something happened to you, yes. Automatically. If you separate, she'd claim half in community property. Maybe more if she can prove she contributed to improvements. My chest tightened. But, Grace said, we can fix this if we move fast. How fast? How fast can you make decisions? I met her eyes. Fast. She smiled, picked up her pen. Good, then let's go to war. Grace ordered a title search. Full background check on any liens, claims, or filings against the property. She explained the legal framework, spousal rights, community property, the ways a will written in 1989 could become a weapon. We need to restructure your estate, she said. Create a land trust, transfer ownership to a trust entity with you as primary trustee. It protects the land from automatic spousal inheritance. How long does that take? If we file by April 15th, we're safe. That's the tax deadline. Estate changes filed before then take precedence over any claims filed after. April 15th, 4.5 months. There's one complication, Grace said. She set down her pen. A land trust needs a successor trustee, someone who will manage the property if something happens to you. Family is best, someone with stake in preserving it. I thought of Becky, our 3-year silence, the argument about her divorce that had split us apart. My daughter, I said. Will she agree? I don't know. Grace studied me. Then that's your first call. Before I can file anything, I need her consent, written and notarized. I left her office with a folder full of papers and a knot in my chest. The drive home took an hour. The whole way I rehearsed what I'd say to Becky. None of it sounded right. Diane came back 2 days later. I was in the barn, checking on a sick calf when I heard her car. Not the sedan. The SUV. She'd come back for it. I walked out. She was standing by the driver's door, keys in hand. She'd dressed up, nice coat, hair done, like she was going somewhere important. Vernon. Diane. I need to get some things from the house. Go ahead. She hesitated. Can we talk? Nothing to talk about. Please. I didn't answer. She walked past me toward the house. I followed at a distance. Inside, she moved through the rooms like a stranger. Picked up her jewelry box from the bedroom, her good winter boots, a stack of books from the shelf. Then she went to the kitchen, started cooking. I watched from the doorway. She pulled out the big pot, the one she used for pot roast. Started cutting carrots, potatoes. Got a roast from the freezer like it was any other Sunday. What are you doing? Making dinner. She didn't look up. Your favorite. I'm not hungry. You need to eat. She worked in silence. The smell of browning meat filled the kitchen. Onions, garlic, the scent of something that used to mean home. When it was ready, she set 2 plates, poured wine, lit a candle. The same candle from our anniversary 3 years ago, the one she said gave her headaches. Sit, she said. I sat. We ate. She asked about the cattle, about the fence work, about whether I'd fixed the gate latch on the south pasture. Normal questions. Everyday questions. Like Thanksgiving had never happened. I've been thinking, she said finally. Maybe we rushed into things. Said things we didn't mean. I set down my fork. I've been stressed, she continued. Work stuff. Friend drama. I took it out on you and that wasn't fair. Work stuff. Yes. What kind of work stuff? She blinked. Just, the usual. You haven't worked in 5 years. Her smile flickered. I mean, around the house. It's work. I pushed my plate away, stood up. Vernon, please. You packed your bag before dinner, before you said a word. I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly. You commissioned a land appraisal in September. Her face went pale. What? Found it in your car, along with the survey stakes, September 17th. She opened her mouth, closed it. The color drained from her cheeks. That's not... I can explain. Under your maiden name, Diane Pruitt. She stood up, back toward the door. You went through my things. They were in your car, in my driveway, on my property. Our property, my grandfather's property, my father's property, my property. Her jaw tightened. The mask slipped. Just for a second, I saw something else underneath, something cold. We've been married 38 years, she said. Texas is a community property state. It's half mine. There it was, the truth she'd been hiding behind the pot roast and the candles. Get out, I said. Vernon, get out of my house. She grabbed her purse, walked to the door, stopped, turned back. You'll regret this. I already do. I regret 38 years. She left. This time she took the SUV. I stood in the kitchen and looked at the dinner she'd made. The candle was still burning. I blew it out, threw the food in the trash, washed the dishes, scrubbed the pot until my hands were raw. The call came from Tom Brennan 3 days later. Tom managed First State Bank of Clearwater. We'd known each other since high school. His father had banked with my father. Vernon, can you come by the bank? It's important. What's this about? Rather talk in person. I drove into town. Tom met me at the door, led me past the teller windows to his office and back, closed the door. I'm breaking protocol telling you this, he said. But you need to know. Know what? Diane came in last week, asked about transferring your property deed into joint tenancy with right of survivorship. The room tilted. What? She wanted to change the deed structure, said you'd agreed to it. Said it was for estate planning purposes. I didn't agree to anything. I know. Tom leaned forward. That's why I'm telling you. She brought paperwork, had questions about how the transfer would work, what she'd need, how long it would take. Did you tell her anything? I told her she'd need your signature. Both of you would have to appear together. But Vernon, he paused. She asked what would happen if you were incapacitated, if she had power of attorney. My hands went cold. She came in with a lawyer, Tom said. Some woman from Oklahoma City. They had folders, documents. This wasn't casual conversation. This was reconnaissance. When? November 20th. Before Thanksgiving. Before she said a word about wanting to live without me. Tom opened his desk drawer, pulled out a pamphlet. I took the liberty of flagging your accounts. Put a note that any changes require both signatures and in-person verification. But, Vernon, you should consider moving some assets, protecting yourself. I took the pamphlet, protecting your assets during separation. How long have you known? I asked. About Diane? Suspected for a month, but I couldn't say anything until she made a move. Client confidentiality. He looked pained. I'm sorry. Don't be. You're telling me now. I stood to leave. Tom stood too. Vernon, your grandfather banked here. Your father, you. 3 generations. I'm not going to let someone take what your family built. You understand? I nodded. Couldn't speak. Outside the bank, I sat in my truck and stared at the steering wheel. The courthouse across the street had its Christmas lights on now. Red and green and white. Cheerful, wrong. November 20th. She'd gone to the bank with a lawyer. November 20th, 4 days before Thanksgiving. She'd been planning this for months. The appraisal, the survey, the bank visit, the lawyer, every smile, every dinner, every time she'd said she loved me. All of it was positioning. I pulled out my phone, called Grace. She went to my bank, I said when she answered. November 20th. Asked about changing the property deed, brought a lawyer. Silence. Then, November. That's 10 days before your Thanksgiving confrontation. Yes. Vernon, this is good news. And how is this good news? Because it proves premeditation. It shows this wasn't emotional. It was strategic. And strategic means we can outmaneuver her. I heard papers shuffling. I'm filing an emergency motion to freeze any property transfers. And Vernon, you need to call your daughter. Today, we're running out of time. I hung up, sat in the truck watching people go in and out of the bank. Normal people, living normal lives, not trying to steal land, not discovering their wife had been waging a secret war for months. My phone was still in my hand. I pulled up Becky's number, stared at it. 3 years since we'd really talked. 3 years since I'd told her she was making a mistake, divorcing her husband. 3 years since she'd told me I didn't understand anything about her life. I pressed call. It rang 4 times. I almost hung up. Dad? Her voice, cautious, surprised. Becky, I need to tell you something. I told her everything. The Thanksgiving announcement, the appraisal, the bank visit, the lawyer. She listened without interrupting. I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line. Dad, she said finally, I need to tell you something too. What? Mom called me 3 weeks ago, asked if I thought you'd be open to selling the ranch, said you were getting older, said maybe it was time to cash out while the market was good. My grip tightened on the phone. What did you say? I said no. I said that land was Grandpa's legacy that you'd never sell. She paused. She got angry, said I didn't understand, said you were being stubborn, that I should talk sense into you. You didn't tell me. I thought she was just venting. I didn't think... Her voice cracked. I didn't think she'd actually do something. Through the windshield, I watched a couple walk into the bank holding hands, young, maybe 30, their whole lives ahead of them. There's more, I said. I'm setting up a land trust to protect the ranch. Grace Nguyen is handling it, but I need a successor trustee, someone who will take care of the land if something happens to me. Silence. Becky, I'm asking if you'd consider coming back, not forever, not right away, but eventually, to help me run it, to learn it again. Dad, I have a job, a life, Emma's in school. I know. And we haven't talked in years. I know that too. More silence. I heard voices in the background. Her husband, maybe. Emma, asking something. I need to think about it, she said. Take your time. How much time do I have? Grace needs an answer by the end of the week to file the paperwork. That's 4 days. Yes, she exhaled. Okay, I'll think about it. I'll call you. And Becky. Yeah? I was wrong about your divorce, about what I said. You were protecting yourself and I made it harder. Her breath caught. Dad, I'm sorry. She was quiet for a long time. I'll call you, she said finally. I promise. After she hung up, I sat in the truck until the sun dropped behind the buildings and the temperature fell. And my breath fogged the windows. Back at the ranch, I worked until dark, fed the cattle, broke ice on the water tanks, fixed a section of fence that had come loose in the wind. Physical work, the kind that doesn't require thinking. When I finally went inside, the house felt wrong, too big, too empty, too full of her absence. I couldn't stay there. I went to the barn, grabbed tools, wire cutters, extra fencing staples, a hammer, loaded everything into the truck bed. Then I drove to the south gate, the one that led to the back 40, where Diane's survey stakes had been planted. I pulled them up, every single one, 12 stakes with neon ribbons that had no business being on my land. Threw them in the truck bed, where they clattered against the toolbox. Then I fixed the gate. It had been hanging crooked for months. The latch wouldn't catch right. I'd been meaning to repair it, but there was always something else, something more urgent. Tonight, it was urgent. I worked by truck headlights, pulled the old hinges, replaced them with new ones from the hardware store, oiled the latch, adjusted the posts until the gate swung true and closed with a solid click. The temperature was in the teens. My fingers went numb even through the gloves. But I kept working. When I finished, I tested it. Opened and closed the gate 5 times. Perfect, solid. The way a gate should be. I stood there in the cold and the dark and looked at my land, stretching away into nothing. My grandfather had stood here. My father, now me. And if Diane had her way, it would be sold, subdivided, turned into something else, something temporary. I got back in the truck, drove home, carried Diane's things from the house to the barn, her clothes, her books, her jewelry box, the yoga mat she never used, packed everything into boxes and sealed them with tape, loaded the boxes into the truck. Drove to the main gate, at the edge of the property where the driveway met the county road, set everything beside the cattle guard. Then I texted her, your things are at the main gate. Don't come to the house. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. We need to talk. No, we don't. Vernon, please. I turned off my phone. Back at the house, I made coffee. Sat at the kitchen table with Grace's paperwork spread out in front of me. The land trust documents, the forms that would protect what my family had built. In one of the boxes of Diane's things, I'd found something I'd forgotten about. Her grandmother's quilt, the one Diane's mother had made by hand, wedding ring pattern, blues and whites. Diane had always said she'd pass it to Emma someday, said it was important, family history. I'd put it in the box with everything else. But now I took it out, unfolded it. The stitching was tight, perfect. The kind of work that took months, years maybe. I folded it back up, wrapped it in paper, wrote Emma's name on it. When Becky called, if she called, I'd give it to her, for Emma. Because some things shouldn't be lost just because the people who held them couldn't hold each other. The next morning I called Grace. I changed the locks, I said. Put her things at the gate. Sent her a text. Good. Document everything. Save the text. Take photos of where you left her belongings. Already did. Okay. I heard papers rustling. I've got the trust documents ready, but I need Becky's answer. Has she called? Not yet. Vernon, I need that answer by Friday. If she says no, we have to find another solution, but it won't be as strong. I know. Push her if you have to. This is about survival now. After we hung up, I sat and looked at the quilt wrapped in paper with Emma's name on it. Some things you fight for, some things you let go. The trick is knowing which is which. Diane showed up that afternoon. I was in the barn when I heard her car. She pulled up to the main gate, got out, stared at the boxes I watched from the barn door. She picked through them, opened one, then another, looking for something. Finally, she got back in her car, drove up to the house anyway. I met her in the driveway. The locks are changed, I said. This is still my house. No, it's not. And she was shaking. Angry or cold, I couldn't tell. You can't just kick me out. I have rights. Talk to your lawyer about your rights. Vernon, please. Can we talk like adults? Adults don't commission appraisals behind their husband's back. Adults don't go to banks with lawyers before filing for separation. Her face went white. How did you? Doesn't matter how. What matters is I know. All of it. She took a step back. You're making a mistake. Maybe, but it's my mistake to make. On my land. In my house. Our house. Not anymore. She stared at me. For a moment, I saw something that might have been regret, or might have been calculation. With Diane, I couldn't tell anymore. You'll regret this, she said. You already said that. She got in her car, reversed down the driveway too fast, sprayed gravel, left tracks in the mud where the snow was starting to melt. I watched her taillights disappear. Then I went back to the barn and got to work. The south pasture needed new fence posts before spring. The equipment shed needed cleaning. The tractor needed an oil change. Work that would still be here when everything else was gone. Work that didn't lie. Pastor Dutch called on Sunday, asked if I'd be at service, said people were concerned, said it would be good for me to be part of the community during this difficult time. I went. Mistake. I sat in my usual pew, third row from the back, right side. Same spot for 40 years. People smiled, nodded, kept their distance. After the service, Dutch cornered me in the fellowship hall. Coffee and donuts. Forced cheerfulness. Vernon, I'm glad you came. Listen, some of the ladies have been talking. They're worried about you. They should worry about themselves. He lowered his voice. Diane's been attending the women's Bible study. She's been sharing about her struggles, about feeling controlled. The word landed like a slap. Controlled. And she says you've always made the decisions. The finances, the property, everything. She says she never had a voice. I set my coffee down. Dutch, she had 38 years to use her voice. She chose to use it with a land appraiser instead. That's not what He stopped, collected himself. Marriage is complicated. Both people contribute. Both people have valid feelings. And she filed a property lien in December. Before she said a word to me about separation, his expression shifted. What? December 8th. While I was hanging Christmas lights, she asked me to put up, while she was telling me she loved them. As Dutch opened his mouth, closed it. You want to talk about valid feelings, what I said. Talk to her about that. I walked out. 3 women from the Bible study watched me go. I heard whispers, felt eyes on my back. In the parking lot, Carol from the diner caught up with me. Vernon, wait. I stopped. I heard what Pastor Dutch said about Diane and the Bible study. You did? Half the church heard. She's been painting herself as the victim. Says you're financially abusive. Says you control everything. Won't let her have independence. Carol's jaw was tight. I wanted you to know, in case it matters. Man, it doesn't. It does. People are taking sides, and some of them are believing her. I looked across the parking lot, saw clusters of people talking, glancing my way. I recognized faces. People I'd known for decades. People whose kids I'd employed for summer work. Whose livestock I'd helped birth. Whose fences I'd mended. Now they were whispering about me like I was a stranger. Let them believe what they want, I said. Vernon, thanks for the warning, Carol. I got in my truck and left. Randy called that afternoon. I found something. What? County records. There's a lien filed against your property, December 8th, just like I thought. My chest tightened. Tell me. It's a spousal claim. Says Diane, contributed to property improvements over the course of the marriage. Claims she has equity interest in the land. It's a legal positioning move? No, for what? Divorce settlement or inheritance claim. Basically, she's establishing on paper that she has ownership rights. He paused. Vern, the filing date is the same week you put up those Christmas lights. The ones she said she loved. I sat down. The kitchen chair creaked. She was planning this for months, Randy continued. The appraisal in September, the lien in December. She probably went to a lawyer over the summer, maybe earlier. How do I fight it? Grace can challenge it, but it's filed. It's official. Which means Diane's lawyer is good. They knew to establish the claim before filing for separation. Outside, sleet started tapping against the windows. The weather was turning, another storm coming. There's more, Randy said. I pulled some background on the law firm that filed the lien, Garrett and Associates. They specialize in high-asset divorces, property disputes. They don't come cheap. How much? $500 an hour, maybe more? Where's she getting that kind of money? Good question. After we hung up, I sat and listened to the sleet. The sound was steady, relentless, like time running out. I pulled up my bank statements online, checked the joint account, nothing unusual. Checked the savings, normal withdrawals for groceries, gas, household expenses. Then I checked further back, August, July, June. There. A withdrawal in June, $5,000, cash. Another in July, $5,000. August, another $15,000. Gone before I ever found the appraisal. She'd been planning this since summer, maybe longer. I called Grace. She withdrew $15,000 in cash over 3 months. June through August. I never noticed. That's retainer money, Grace said immediately. She paid a lawyer, probably the same firm that filed the lien. Can you fight it? Yes. But Vernon, this gets worse before it gets better. She's established legal standing. She has representation. She's been building a case while you've been working the ranch. Grace's voice softened. We need Becky's answer. Without that trust, your options are limited. I understand. Has she called? Not yet. It's been 3 days. I know. Push her. Tonight. We're out of time. Becky called at 8. I was feeding the cattle when my phone buzzed. I almost didn't answer, hands covered in grain dust and molasses. But I saw her name, and I answered. Dad. Hey. When I talked to my husband. About the ranch. About the trust. I waited. Couldn't breathe. He thinks I'm crazy, she said. Says we have a life here. Says Emma's settled in school. Says moving back would be a mistake. My heart sank. But Dad, her voice cracked. I've been thinking about something. About why I really left 3 years ago. Becky, let me say this, please. I stopped, stood still in the barn with the phone pressed to my ear. When I got divorced, it wasn't just because things weren't working. It was because Mark wanted money. He'd been gambling, online poker, lost everything. Then he started asking about the ranch, about what it was worth, about whether you'd ever sell. The wind picked up outside. I could hear it howling through the gaps. He wanted me to convince you to sell, she said. Split the proceeds. He said we could use the money to start over, but I knew if you sold that land, it would kill you. So I told him no. And when he wouldn't let it go, I left him. Why didn't you tell me? Because you would have felt guilty, would have blamed yourself, and I was already angry at you for judging my marriage. So I left him, left you. Easier that way. I leaned against the barn wall. The wood was cold through my coat. I protected you once before, Dad, by walking away, and you never knew, never asked why I really left. She took a shaky breath. So yeah, I'll come back. I'll be your successor trustee. I'll help you save the ranch. Becky, but you have to promise me something. Onion, what? When this is over, when the dust settles, we talk, really talk, no more silence? Okay, I mean it. I promise. She exhaled. Okay, tell Grace I'm in. I'll sign whatever she needs. After we hung up, I stood in the barn and let myself feel it. Relief, grief, gratitude. All of it at once. The cattle were watching me, patient, waiting. I finished feeding them. Then I called Grace. Becky said yes. Thank God, I'll have the papers ready by morning. Can she come to my office tomorrow to sign? She's in Austin. She'll drive up. Good. Vernon, this is the break we needed. With her on board, we can file the trust before Diane makes her next move. What's her next move? If I were her lawyer, I'd file for legal separation, claim the house. Push for a settlement based on that lien. Grace paused. But we're going to beat her to it. New Year's Eve came cold and clear. The sky was hard blue, the kind of cold that makes the ground ring when you walk on it. I spent the morning clearing brush from the fence lines. Work that didn't need doing right away, but gave me something to focus on besides the date. Besides the fact that this time last year, Diane and I had watched the ball drop on television, shared a bottle of champagne, kissed at midnight, like we meant it. Maybe she hadn't meant it even then. At noon, I drove into town, picked up supplies at the feed store. Tom at the bank waved through the window. I waved back. On the way home, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mr. Hayes, this is Margaret Garrett. I represent your wife Diane in her legal matters. I pulled over. Okay. I'm calling as a courtesy. We'll be filing for legal separation on January 2nd. The petition will include a request for temporary occupancy of the marital home and a freeze on all property, transactions pending settlement negotiations. My hands tightened on the wheel. She can request whatever she wants. Mr. Hayes, my client has been very reasonable. She's willing to negotiate. But she does have legal rights to property acquired during the marriage. I'm sure your attorney has explained community property law. My attorney's explained a lot of things. You understand this can go one of two ways: amicable settlement or protracted litigation. I'd prefer the former. I bet you would. Silence. Then, my client would like to meet, face to face. Discuss this like adults, perhaps at the ranch. Tomorrow, New Year's Day. She knows where I live. Is that a yes? Tell her to come at 2. Thank you, Mr. Hayes. I think you'll find... I hung up, sat in the truck on the shoulder of the county road, and watched a hawk circle over the pasture. Hunting. Patient. Waiting for something to move. I called Grace. They're filing for separation January 2nd. Her lawyer just called. Wants to freeze property transactions. Expected. Did you agree to anything? Just to meet with Diane tomorrow, 2 o'clock, at the ranch. Well, Vernon, do not... I know. Don't agree to anything. Don't sign anything. I'm not stupid. I didn't say you were. She paused. But you're emotional, and she knows how to manipulate that. Be careful. I will. I'll file the trust paperwork tomorrow, first thing. Before they can freeze anything, Becky signed this morning. We're ready to go. After we hung up, I drove home, fed the cattle, broke ice on the water tanks. The sun was already dropping. 4:30 and nearly dark. Winter at its deepest. Inside the house, I made coffee, sat at the table, looked at the empty chair across from me. Tomorrow, Diane would sit there, ask me to be reasonable, to think about our history, to remember the good times. And I'd have to look at her and see only the lie. She arrived exactly at 2. I watched from the window as she got out of her car. She'd dressed carefully. Not too formal. Jeans. A sweater I recognized. One I'd bought her for Christmas 5 years ago. Calculated casualness. I opened the door before she knocked. Vernon? Diane. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She walked into the kitchen. Looked around like she was cataloging changes, seeing what I'd moved or cleaned or thrown away. Coffee? I asked. Please. I poured 2 cups. We sat. Thank you for meeting with me, she said. Your lawyer didn't give me much choice. This doesn't have to be ugly. It already is. She wrapped her hands around the mug. The gesture was familiar. I'd seen it 1,000 times. Morning coffee at this same table, talking about the day ahead, plans for dinner, normal married life. I want you to understand something, she said. This isn't about hurting you. It's about me finally choosing myself. By trying to take the ranch. By claiming what's mine. What I helped build. You didn't build this. My grandfather did. My father. Me. I was here, Vernon. 38 years. Cooking your meals. Cleaning your house. Being your wife. That's work too. That has value. Nobody's saying it doesn't. Then why are you fighting me? I set my cup down. Because you didn't ask. You surveyed my land behind my back, filed liens, went to banks with lawyers. You built a case while pretending everything was fine. I had to protect myself. From what? From being left with nothing. You wouldn't have nothing. I never said you'd have nothing. But you would have controlled it, all of it, just like you always have. She leaned forward. Vernon, I need you to hear this. I felt invisible in this marriage, like I didn't matter, like I was just here, background scenery in your life. The words should have hurt. Maybe once they would have. When did you start feeling invisible? I asked. I don't know. Years ago. Before June? When you withdrew $5,000 in cash to pay a lawyer? Her face went pale. Before September? When you commissioned the appraisal? Vernon. Before December? When you filed the line while I hung Christmas lights you said you loved? She stood up. You don't understand. No, I don't. Help me understand. When did you start planning to leave? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? She turned away, walked to the window, looked out at the land, my land, the land she wanted to claim. I met someone, she said quietly. The words hung there. His name is Marcus. He manages a gym in the city. We met at a coffee shop. He saw me. Really saw me. Made me feel like I mattered. When? Last spring. Spring. 9 months ago. Before the lawyer. Before the appraisal. Before everything. He asked me to leave, she continued. To start fresh. He has plans, business ideas. We could build something together. Something that's ours. With my money. With our money. Community property. You want to take the ranch my grandfather homesteaded. The land my father protected through the drought of '56, the land I've worked for 42 years. You want to sell it so you can fund your boyfriend's business ideas. She turned to face me. When you say it like that, how should I say it? Vernon, please, Marcus and I, we have real plans. He wants to open fitness franchises. 3 locations. We've done the research. It's a good investment. 3 franchises. Yes. How much does that cost? 800,000, maybe $1 million. The number sat there between us. Heavy, final. The appraisal valued the ranch at $1.2 million, I said. So you'd sell it, split the proceeds, use my half to fund his business. Our business. And it wouldn't be your half, it would be half each. That's the law. I stood up, walked to the door, opened it. Get out. Vernon, this land isn't for sale. Not to fund gyms, not to make you feel seen, not for any reason. You can't just, I can, and I am. Get out of my house. She grabbed her purse, walked to the door, stopped. Marcus said you'd be like this, said you'd try to control everything. Marcus. The guy who wants 3 franchises on my family's sweat. He's a good man. Then marry him. Build a life with him, just don't do it on land my grandfather died protecting. She stared at me, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw something that might have been shame, then it was gone. You'll hear from my lawyer, she said. I already have. She left. The door closed. The house was silent again. I stood there and felt something break loose inside me. Not anger, not grief. Understanding. She'd never loved the land, never understood what it meant. To her, it was just property, assets, numbers on a page, and I'd spent 38 years pretending that was okay. Grace filed the land trust paperwork on January 2nd at 8 in the morning, called me at 8:15. It's done. The Hayes Family Land Trust is official. You're primary trustee, Becky's successor. The ranch is protected. What happens now? Diane's lawyer will file their separation petition today. But they're too late. The trust was established before their filing. The land is no longer marital property subject to division. She'll fight it. Let her. The law's on our side now. I thanked her, hung up, stood in the kitchen, and felt the weight lift just slightly. The ranch was safe. But it wasn't over. 3 days later, I was at the Silver Spur for breakfast, early, before the morning crowd. Just me and Carol and the smell of bacon grease and burnt coffee. The door opened. Diane walked in. The diner went silent. She saw me. Our eyes met. She walked over. Vernon, please, can we talk? Every head in the diner turned. Carol froze at the coffee pot. The cook stopped flipping eggs. Nothing to talk about, I said. Please. Her voice broke. I made mistakes. I know that. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. Work through it. Diane, 38 years, Vernon. That has to mean something. I set down my fork, stood up. The whole diner was watching now, listening. You commissioned a land appraisal in September, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Filed a lien in December, went to my bank with a lawyer in November. You've been planning this for months while pretending everything was fine. Her face went red. That's not... You're twisting it. You told me you wanted to live without me. I said fine, not in my house. Not on my dime. You think I didn't mean it? Vernon, everyone makes mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a campaign. She looked around, saw the faces staring, Carol at the counter, Tom Brennan from the bank at his usual booth, Pastor Dutch by the window, half the town bearing witness. Please, she whispered, don't do this here. You did this here. You told your Bible study I was controlling, abusive. You painted me as the villain so you could be the victim. Now you want privacy? Her attorney stood up from a booth in the back. I hadn't seen her come in. Margaret Garrett, expensive suit, cold eyes. Mr. Hayes, this is inappropriate. You know what's inappropriate? Trying to steal land that's been in my family for 3 generations so your client can fund her boyfriend's gym franchises. The diner erupted in whispers. Diane's face went white. How did you... Marcus told me about the 3 locations. About the 800,000. About how you promised him enough to build an empire on my grandfather's sweat. She backed toward the door, stumbled, caught herself. I gave you 38 years, I said. You wanted freedom. You've got it. But the land stays where it belongs, with family, with people who understand what it means. Diane looked at me, then at the room full of people, then at her lawyer. We're done here, Margaret Garrett said, took Diane's arm, led her out. The door closed. The bell chimed. Silence. Then Randy stood up from his booth, walked over, stood next to me. He's right, Randy said to the room. I saw the county filings. She started this war last summer. Vernon's just finishing it. Tom Brennan stood too. Diane came to my bank with a lawyer trying to change property deeds without Vernon's knowledge. In November, before Thanksgiving, Pastor Dutch didn't stand, but he nodded, slow, like he was finally understanding. Carol brought me fresh coffee, set it down, squeezed my shoulder. I sat back down. The diner slowly came back to life. Conversations resumed, forks clinked on plates. But something had shifted. The whispers weren't about me anymore. I found Marcus 2 days later. He worked at a gym on the south side of Oklahoma City, modern place. Glass walls, rows of treadmills, music pumping through speakers. I waited in the parking lot until he came out. 5 o'clock, end of his shift. He was younger than I expected. Mid-30s, fit, the kind of guy who wore compression shirts and checked his phone between sets. Marcus. He turned, saw me. His face went careful. Yeah? Vernon Hayes. Recognition, then fear. He took a step back. I'm not here to fight, I said, just to ask one question. I don't want trouble, man. No trouble. Just one question. He waited. What did my wife promise you? He looked around. The parking lot was half empty. No witnesses, no escape. Look, I didn't know all the details. She said you two were separating, that it was mutual, that there'd be money from the property settlement. How much money? He shifted his weight. Enough for 3 franchises. Maybe 4 if the valuation came in high. So around $1 million. She said it was half hers. Community property. I looked it up. Texas law. Did she mention the land's been in my family since 1947? She said, he stopped. She said you'd inherited it, that it wasn't really earned, that you'd just been lucky. I felt something cold settle in my chest. My grandfather homesteaded that land, broke it with a mule and a plow. My father held it through the drought of '56 when cattle were dying and banks were foreclosing. I've worked it for 42 years. Every fence post, every gate, every building. Marcus looked at the ground. That's not luck, I said. That's blood. I didn't know, man, I swear. She made it sound like you were this old guy who didn't appreciate her, who took her for granted. Maybe I did, but that doesn't make the land hers to sell. No, look, it's over, okay? She called me yesterday, said the trust thing went through, said there wasn't going to be any money. We're done. What, you leave her, or she leave you? Does it matter? Curious. He met my eyes. She left. Said I wasn't worth the trouble without the payout. He laughed, bitter. Guess we were both just marks, huh? I turned to leave. Hey, he said. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I should have asked more questions. Should have known something was off when she talked about you like you were an obstacle instead of a person. I nodded, got in my truck. She told me you were weak, Marcus called out. Said you'd roll over. Give her whatever she wanted. She was wrong. Yeah, she was. I drove away. Left him standing in the parking lot with his protein shaker and his broken plans and the realization that he'd been used. Welcome to the club. Becky arrived at the ranch that weekend, brought Emma with her, said they were staying through spring. Maybe longer. She'd talked to her firm about remote work, about transitioning to part-time, about teaching Emma what land means and where she comes from. We walked the fence line together. Emma ran ahead, pointed at a hawk, asked questions about the cattle. I'm sorry it took me so long to say yes, Becky said. You said yes. That's what matters. I was scared of coming back, of us fighting again. We probably will fight. She laughed. Yeah, probably. We walked in silence for a while. The ground was softer now, the snow melting, mud season coming. Thank you for the quilt, she said. Emma loves it. It was your grandmother's. Should stay in the family. Everything should stay in the family. I looked at her. She looked back. Yeah, I said. It should. The mediation happened in March, Grace's office. Diane and her attorney on one side of the table. Me and Grace on the other. Margaret Garrett laid out their position. Diane deserved compensation for 38 years of marriage, for contributions to the household, for sacrifices made. Grace laid out ours. The land trust was legal and binding. The ranch was no longer marital property. But we were willing to offer a settlement, $300,000 cash, 1/4 of the appraised value. Diane could take it or fight it in court for years. Margaret whispered with Diane for 20 minutes. I watched Diane's face, saw the calculations, the hope draining away. We'll accept, Margaret said finally. Grace slid the papers across. Diane signed. Her hand shook. You'll have the funds in 30 days, Grace said. In exchange, you release all claims to the property, forever. Diane looked at me. Vernon. It's done, I said. She stood, walked out without another word. Margaret Garrett gathered her briefcase, nodded once. Professional courtesy, then followed her client. The door closed. It's over, Grace said. I sat there, felt the weight of it, the finality. She'll be okay, Grace said. 300,000 is more than most people see in a lifetime. I know. You protected what matters? Yeah, but it didn't feel like victory. Just felt like the end of something that should have ended differently. April came wet and cold. The fields turned green overnight. Calving season started. Becky worked beside me. Emma helped where she could, carried feed buckets, learned to check fences. One morning, I walked the fence line alone. The same route I'd walked the day after Thanksgiving. The survey stakes were gone. The ground was soft. The barbed wire hummed in the wind, but it sounded different now, lighter. I found the spot where the first stake had been. Nothing there now but new grass. At the gate, I stopped, ran my hand along the post my grandfather had planted. The wood was weathered, solid, still standing after 78 years. From the house, I heard voices. Becky calling Emma for breakfast. Normal sounds, family sounds. The land remembers who loves it and who tried to sell it. My grandfather was right about that. The bank transferred the settlement money in mid-April. $300,000, Diane's share. I never asked what she did with it. Never asked if Marcus came back or stayed gone. Never asked if she bought her freedom or just bought time. It wasn't my business anymore. The divorce finalized in May. Simple, clean, no contest. I got the papers in the mail, signed them, sent them back. That night, Becky made dinner. Pot roast, not Diane's recipe, her own. We ate at the table. Emma talked about school, about wanting to learn to ride better, about maybe joining 4-H when they moved here permanently. When we move here, I said. Becky looked at Emma. Emma grinned. We've been talking, Becky said. My firm agreed to let me stay remote. Emma's school here is good, and she paused. This is home, Dad. Maybe it always was. I just forgot for a while. I couldn't speak, just nodded. After dinner, we walked out to the barn. Emma ran ahead. Becky walked beside me. I brought something, she said, for the gate. She showed me a new ranch sign, hand-carved, professional work. Hayes Family Land Trust. Est, 19 for 7. Thought we should make it official, she said. We hung it the next morning, all three of us. Used the old welding torch to burn the edges. Make it weatherproof. Emma held the sign while I bolted it to the gate posts. When we finished, we stood back and looked at it. The morning sun caught the letters, made them glow. Grandpa would be proud, Becky said. Yeah, he would. Emma grabbed my hand. Can we plant a tree, like great-grandpa did? I looked at Becky. She smiled. Yeah, I said. We can plant a tree. We drove into town, bought an oak sapling from the nursery, brought it back, planted it by the gate where everyone who came up the drive would see it. Emma poured the first bucket of water, Becky the second. I poured the third. How long until it's big? Emma asked. Long time, maybe 50 years before it's full grown. Will I be old? You'll be older. Will you still be here? I knelt down, looked at her. I'll be here as long as I can. But when I'm gone, you'll be here. And your kids, and their kids. That's what this tree is for, to remind you. Remind me of what? That some things are worth protecting, worth staying for. She thought about that, then hugged me. We stood there in the April sun, the three of us, 3 generations, past and present, and future. The land didn't care who loved it, but it remembered who stayed. 3 weeks later, I sat on the porch at dawn with my coffee. The rain gauge showed 2 inches from last night's storm. Good for the seedlings. The oak sapling by the gate was already leafing out. Too fast, probably. Beginner's luck. From the barn, I heard Becky's voice. She was on the phone with a client. She'd set up an office in the tack room. Said the quiet helped her think. Said maybe she'd stay through summer, through fall, maybe longer. Emma was still asleep. She'd been up late helping me check on a calving cow. Held the flashlight steady while I worked. Didn't flinch, didn't complain, just watched and learned. The sun cleared the tree line, warmed the porch boards. The fields stretched green toward the horizon. My grandfather's transit sat on the table beside me, brass catching the light. Becky wanted to teach Emma to use it someday. Pass it down, keep the precision. I thought about Diane sometimes, wondered where she'd landed, if Marcus came back, if $300,000 bought her the freedom she'd been looking for. Mostly I didn't think about her at all. Some battles you win with noise. This one I won with receipts and lawyers, and my daughter's willingness to come home. But the real victory wasn't in the winning. It was in the morning coffee, and the rain gauge, and the oak sapling that would outlast us all. It was in the sound of my daughter's voice in the barn, and my granddaughter's boots by the door. The land doesn't care who loves it, but it remembers who stays. A meadowlark started singing from the fence post. Too early for the season, but too stubborn to know it. I smiled, sipped my coffee, stayed.